Hey, Falcons and NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen. And this is Obi. Is that it?
Bogey.
Bogey. That's right, Bogey. I thought you said Ogie but right before we went live. And I was like, did you get another cat? I had never heard that one before. Bogey.
Bogey.
And I'm Dave Holcomb. Chris not with us today, so you're dealing with just the hosts on today's show. But we have some topics we want to get to from Championship Sunday. We're hoping also to make you guys a big part of the show. Want to get to any comments that we have today. Send us your questions as we go along with the show. And we could get to a little bit, early Super Bowl stuff if there's any topics you want to hit on. But we're planning to focus on the Super Bowl next week.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll have projections. We'll have player props. We will have picks going on. We will have everything for you next week.
Yeah, and our prize picks selections as well.
Right.
Today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app. And when you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So some free money there. And we don't have any picks this week. You can use the app for other sports if you want to download the app today. And I know there's no NHL games, but NBA games going on. And there's lots of other sports, even other than
college basketball. You can always put player props on. So, I mean, it's all there.
Yes, and then you can have a little bit of a tune-up this weekend and use our Super Bowl picks or your own picks for the Super Bowl in the Prize Picks app next week. So when you sign up, just use that promo code ASU.
They do have player props up for the Super Bowl already, but it's too early to really get into that. I mean, there's still a lot that can happen this week. And you want to take a look at them. You don't want to just jump into it. You really need to look at these and make sure you get the best props you can. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week, and make sure we get the best props we can out to you, and help you make a little money along with enjoying the game.
They don't have any prop bets for the flag football Pro Bowl.
I was looking for that. That's one of the reasons why I signed into Prize Picks. No, they don't. No flag football, no Pro Bowl.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
Too bad. I mean,
how many flags will a defensive player collect? There's so many things you can do with it.
Maybe
plus, you got the skills contest,
right? Yeah,
it's just going to be an exciting Pro Bowl weekend, as you could tell by how just how enthusiastic I am about it.
Yeah. They don't have any NHL prop for their All-Star weekend? The 3-on-3?
Actually, no, they don't. No NHL stuff this week either.
I mean, I'm not super surprised, but that's more of a game than the flag football. So
yeah. Oh God, yes.
The flag football, the 3-on-3 is actually kind of exciting to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Players play 10 minutes of 3-on-3 is pretty cool. So
right.
That's today at 3:00. Anybody interested in a little NHL? They had their skills competition last night, which I did not tune in for, but
no.
That's sometimes fun to watch too.
It can be. Yeah, it can be. If you're really, really into it, but I don't know. It doesn't work for me. All-Star games used to be a whole lot better. They used to be really fun to watch. And in this day of big money, nobody wanting to get hurt, in the NHL and football and baseball really isn't the same, and they keep wrecking baseball's All-Star game. It was different when there were two different leagues. The different leagues were different organizations, and both leagues took a lot of pride in winning that game. And that was always a fun week to be had. And basketball, you've never seen defense in a basketball all-star game.
Right.
So
I still think baseball has the best all-star game by far.
So do I.
And maybe it isn't what it used to be, but for someone that probably didn't see it at its peak anyway, like somebody my age, I think we can still enjoy the baseball all-star game. Unlike the Pro Bowl just seems to have been on a steady decline over
it has been
20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah. As I say, ever since free agency entered sports and big money entered sports, players are a lot less likely to put it all out there. And at one time before the big money, players needed that winning check from the All-Star games, from the Pro Bowl. They needed the winning check just to get through the offseason, to get to the next season. I mean, you're talking about athletes, professional athletes who had to get a job in the offseason,
right,
to make ends meet. So yeah, they would put a lot into winning these games. It's just not the same though when you costing yourself money by winning one of those games if you get seriously injured.
Right. Yeah.
I do have to say one thing. Tony, sorry for trash talking you a couple of weeks ago. I was looking for you last week. I figured you'd be coming on and trash talking me for getting on you for your picks. And you were right. I was wrong. Okay, it happened.
Yeah, the 49ers, right? Tony, I reminded him last week that his pick for the Cowboys was incorrect.
Yeah.
I had Tony covered.
Oh man!
But we've started with the show with the Pro Bowl. We do have one Pro Bowl topic we will discuss today, but let's circle back to Championship Sunday. And I think the biggest takeaway for me overall, and Tony says, "Nah, I was in hiding." Was the third quarterback came up again on Championship Sunday, and I don't mean this as a troll job, Tom. But I think it was the last time Chicago was in the championship game. We had this be an issue where Chicago had injuries to quarterbacks it was January 2011, the 2010 NFC Championship.
Yeah,
and the Bears had at that time the NFL had the third quarterback rule, which allowed you to put in a third quarterback who was not on the active roster for the game. But if you put that player in before the fourth quarter, your other two quarterbacks could no longer enter the game. Now, if you know
Jay Cutler was injured, Todd Collins just did not play well, did not do anything, and the Bears put their third stringer in. And
that's right. I forgot that the backup didn't actually suffer an injury.
No,
they just put in the third quarterback, but they put in the third quarterback in the third quarter.
Yes, they did. So, but the thing is, it used to be until 2011. That's when the rule kind of changed.
Right. Yes. So I wanted to make sure that our audience knows, if you haven't been following the rule like me. So after that game, the NFL took away the ability to put in a third quarterback that wasn't active. That's why you didn't see San Francisco do that on Sunday. But they added an extra spot on the active roster where you could make a third quarterback active and not lose another position.
Right.
So starting in 2011, there were 46 players that you could have active instead of 45.
Yes.
But no NFL team, to my knowledge, ever uses that 46 spot on a third quarterback.
They don't. It's somebody that they throw out there on special teams, get special team snaps. Nobody who is who's going to make a definite impact on the game actually is dressed as that 46th player. And it's ridiculous. It really is short-sighted to me. I would think that even with the rule change, you would want to use that that being able to dress that third quarterback, because you just never know. And it's the most important position on the field.
Yeah.
You can't do anything without it. I mean, we saw what happened to the 49ers when Josh Johnson went down with the concussion. Brock Purdy had to go back in. He couldn't throw.
Couldn't do anything. Yeah.
And there was only so many ways you can disguise a running play. Yeah. It just didn't work.
Well, they knew that they were going to be running, so they got 8, 9, 10 guys by the line of scrimmage. There's nowhere to run.
Yeah, right. 9 in the box, two cornerbacks setting back just in case, but 9 in the box. And there was nothing San Francisco could do. And I think they are going to address that rule again this offseason. Probably what they'll do is add the 47th player. They will add a 47th player that will be your third string quarterback to allow a third string
requirement that it has to be a quarterback.
With the requirement that it has to be a quarterback.
Right. That's what
because this was an embarrassment to the NFL too.
Right. That's yes. So that's why it's kind of a discussion of what rule can we put in so that we avoid a second half in a championship game where one team doesn't have a quarterback and there's no hope of them really winning the game unless they have a lead, or if it's 7-7 or and it's a low scoring game. But that wasn't the case. They were behind by 14 and they had no chance of coming back.
No, when Josh Johnson went out, you knew that
the game was over.
I mean, it wasn't like they were going to have a great passing game to begin with. Johnson just not being a very good quarterback over the course of his career.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew that, but you lost any chance that you were going to see the 49ers pass the ball went out the window. They were able to set up for the run for the rest of the game. The Eagles were. And the Eagles have a great defensive line. I mean, that just wasn't going to work either. They react fast. They're quick. They're great at rushing the quarterback. It's, there was nothing they could do. Purdy couldn't even throw a screen pass. That's how bad it got.
Or his UCL. So, I mean,
right.
Yeah, I can understand why he couldn't throw at all. He had a major elbow injury that it might cost him the rest of next season. They don't really, from what I've read, that they don't really know yet whether he needs Tommy John surgery. It's
hard to tell, but that was, and I would think that he is going to need Tommy John surgery. He's going to have to do that. That was just a bit, it was unavoidable. The fact that, the arm was up, that he got hit while he was getting ready to come forward with the ball. And I think it was Reddick's arm that he hit.
Yeah.
And it was a completely fluke play, but it was terrible to see a young quarterback who was making such a name for himself. Oh, there's Zozo. And, being out like that. But again, the NFL was embarrassed. You can't embarrass yourself. You've got to let that third string quarterback, there's nothing against having your third string quarterback dress. As I said, I don't think your 46th man not being a quarterback is making a big impact on the game.
Yes, there's two main points that we're making here. So let's talk about Kyle Shanahan. I think he deserves a lot of blame for not having the third quarterback dressed. And I know he's not the only one. He's actually all of the coaches don't have a third quarterback dressed.
No.
And if it's a regular season game, I can kind of understand that. But for a playoff game,
right,
you need the insurance of having your third quarterback dressed.
Right.
Now, in Kyle Shanahan's defense, I don't think this is what he actually did. But if he had done this, did he say to himself, Purdy's my third guy from the beginning of the season? Josh Johnson is the fourth guy that I found off of the street. I think if we're down to the fifth guy in the championship game against the Eagles, the third quarterback on this day, but our fifth of the season, we're not going to have much of a chance anyway. So I'm going to use that 46th spot on a different position. And if we get to that point, we're screwed no matter what I do. It's possible that could have gone through his head. Again, he probably wasn't going to make him active, even if he had Trey Lance. And if he had Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy's probably not active as the third quarterback in the championship game. But I just wanted to defend Shanahan a little bit that, I mean, did they even have a third quarterback on their, practice squad last week?
I don't know. I really don't know. I always check Pro Football Reference for rosters, but they don't keep track of practice squads.
It's really hard to, I think. I don't have a website that I go to. If anybody does have a website that keeps track of practice squads, I'd love the recommendation because I don't know of any.
No, I don't think anybody does. I don't think NFL.com does. So it's really, practice squad is tough to keep up with.
Well, it's always changing.
But to shoot down your argument there, your defense of Shanahan there, Dave.
My small defense of Shanahan.
It's the fact that even if it's a fifth quarterback, even if you got to have just even the possibility that you can throw, that you have a fifth quarterback who can throw, is going to create more opportunities for you out of a pretty good running game. I mean, Christian McCaffrey made a hell of a touchdown run earlier in that game to kind of make it close.
Yeah.
But, you gave up any chance of doing anything. I mean, I watched Kyle Shanahan try to disguise runs. I mean, he tried to disguise runs as many ways as it's possible to disguise a run. And he failed. I mean, there was just no fooling the Eagles line. So it was rough to watch. It was terrible to watch because you knew you weren't going to see a pass. You knew that they didn't have to commit to the pass. Even if you have a third string quarterback who's nothing, who's bounced around his entire career, like another Josh Johnson. Right. But at least you got a possibility out there that you can do something. You got a great defense. You got the possibility that you might be able to do something on offense just to keep the Eagles defense honest a little bit. They didn't even have to work.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. And I see your counterpoint to that. I still think that it's possible that, they were going to be screwed no matter what and I'm looking at the practice squad.
I do agree that, yes, you're looking at a practice squad quarterback. You're not going to have much, but at least the practice squad quarterback has an arm.
That's true.
May not be all that accurate an arm, may not be all that strong of an arm, but he's got an arm. So you can't just sit with two cornerbacks in your secondary and say we're covered.
Well, if you want to just put somebody back there that has an arm, we saw Christian McCaffrey throw a touchdown earlier in the season.
I don't see why McCaffrey wasn't taking more snaps.
Run the Wildcat and
yes.
Throw a couple passes
right
with McCaffrey to make it like you're describing, make it look like he could throw.
Right.
But mostly
I don't know why they didn't do that. And I really, that's one of the things I really blame Shanahan for. That, yeah, you don't have a third quarterback, but you got a guy who's actually been in the position a little bit, who's thrown a pass out of the position. Put McCaffrey back there because you got Brock Purdy just has nothing. He can't even feel his forearm and his hand.
Yeah.
So put somebody back there who at least has a chance. But he didn't do that. And that's what got me, is that I think Shanahan really needed to take that chance, put somebody else in, put or Deebo Samuel or Christian McCaffrey, and let them see what they could do out of the quarterback position.
I've got 49ers.com pulled up here, and they do have under the roster a list of practice squad players. I think it might be an incomplete list because it's only 6 guys.
Yeah.
I don't know is there only 6 players on a practice squad in the offseason? Maybe this wasn't their full list last week, or I don't know. I'm not sure. That's all speculation on my part. But they have 6 players listed under their practice squad right now, and none of them are quarterbacks. So I think it's at least a possibility they didn't have a fifth quarterback or a third quarterback that could have been active last week.
That's possible. That's very possible.
Which, again, falls on Shanahan. That
Yes.
he should have had somebody available in case the situation that arose on Saturday or last week, Sunday, happened.
Now I get one point. It's tough to find an NFL quality quarterback out there. A lot of your second string quarterbacks aren't worth putting on the field most of the time unless you absolutely have to. But
And they're down to number 5.
yes, so I get that at some point. But again, your best choice is using somebody who has taken a snap at some point back there, and not somebody who can't throw no matter what. And the Eagles know he couldn't throw. So why worry about it? Put McCaffrey back there. Let McCaffrey try and throw a couple of things. Let Deebo Samuel try and throw a couple of things. Let them try and run a couple of things out of the Wildcat. That at least allows the Eagles to think, forces them to think, forces them to consider other possibilities. There were no other possibilities. It was dead. That game was dead. But when Purdy had to come back in.
So one more point about the possible rule change, adding the 47th roster spot and requiring it to be a quarterback. Do you think that'll be something that's just enacted in the playoffs, or is that something that you think will be in every game?
Wow, that's a good question. I hadn't even considered that.
Because the rule change with the coin toss is only in the playoffs, if I remember correctly, right? Because in the playoffs now, because of last year, with the Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes game, no matter what in the playoffs, both teams get the ball.
Right.
But that's not the way it is in the regular season. Different rules for the regular season, postseason. I think that's a good way to do it. They got that rule change correct. A couple years ago, there was a rule change from a playoff game in the NFC Championship again. The missed pass interference on the Rams.
Yes, right.
Potentially cost the Saints an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And for a year, we had reviewable pass interference.
Yes.
That rule went away. That was a regular season and postseason rule that went away, I think, thankfully, after 1 year. But I think this would be a good rule change. But I think the question is, well, do we only use it for the postseason?
I think you should use it for every game because every game is important. It's only a 17-game schedule. It's a short schedule by any measurement of the term, compared to other sports. Each game is important. And I think it should be, but I don't think it will be, considering the NFL and the way they do things. They don't. With the NFL, it's always follow the money. And the NFL, again, they don't want to be embarrassed by a playoff loss. They're not as embarrassed if it happens during the regular season, if it happens to a couple of teams that aren't playoff contenders that, run into the situation. If it happens to a team that's a playoff contender, in the regular season, then maybe you have a little more problem because you have to explain that away that, they just didn't. They weren't in a position to win. They cost themselves a playoff seeding.
But again, you have the option of having a third quarterback active if you're worried about this.
You can do it. Yes,
you can. I think it would be good as just a postseason rule to require that third quarterback, so we don't have a playoff game end the way we did last week.
Right.
But a regular season game, if you're worried about the health of your quarterbacks or a situation like this, you can have a third quarterback active. There's no rule against that. There's no rule against having a fourth quarterback active. It's the job of the head coach to, prepare for every scenario that could arise. And quite frankly, Shanahan was not ready for 2 quarterback injuries on Sunday.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Concussions are not a rare thing on the field. Concussions happen, and they seem concussions are being acknowledged more than they used to be. I think back maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, Josh Johnson would have gone back on the field, concussed or not. But they're paying more attention to it, so it makes it
harder.
It makes it harder.
That's true. That's true too. Yeah,
to do that. So, yeah, I think all coaches should do it. I think it's the most important position on the field. It may not be a very good quarterback, but there aren't a lot of good quarterbacks out there. As I say, most teams don't have a good backup. They have somebody you can throw out there, but they're not going to do much for you as far as win or lose. But I think a team needs to do that. I think, you could call it development, quarterback development. You could do something like that and have that third guy on the field. He used to chart plays and have the headset and do all of that, and maybe learn a little something about the game. I don't think that hurts, and I don't think it hurts. I think it hurts the game not to have a legit quarterback, even if he hasn't seen NFL action before. Not to have a legit quarterback on the roster ready to go in if needed.
Tony Wright agrees with us that Shanahan, it was on him last week not having that third available quarterback. He's had a lot of comments about Shanahan as an offensive coordinator back with the Falcons, and his decision-making in the Super Bowl back after the 2016 season. Shanahan made a similar decision in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs a few years ago, not running the ball.
Right.
That arguably hurt their chances of winning that game. And now Shannon's had 2 more near misses at getting back to the Super Bowl last week. And then last year, they were very close to being the Rams and weren't able to close out that game.
Right.
So, a lot of near misses for him.
Tony, I've talked about that 2016 Super Bowl quite a bit, and I fully agree with you, because even if you lost a yard or 2 on each play, you would still be in field goal range. You forced the Patriots to be down 2 scores. You forced them to have to move the ball twice. Plus, you used the time, all that time that Brady had to drive down for the tying touchdown. He wouldn't have had that time. So you would have really put the Patriots behind the 8 ball, and he didn't. And that was a terrible move. And it was just very questionable move by Shanahan. And I blame him for that too.
Gary asks, what about fixing old rules so teams can't use third QB unless of true injuries? I found the old rule better than what they have now, I guess, because you put in a third quarterback, but it's confusing. A third quarterback doesn't have to be active, but he can go in, but he can't go in before the 4th quarter. But if he goes in before the 4th quarter, the other 2 quarterbacks can't go in the game. How about we just have a 47th roster spot, or even 46th, whatever, extra roster spot that's required to be a quarterback that's the third guy on the third string?
I would say go back to being 46th man is your third quarterback, and just have it at that.
And just
However, I think the NFL and the Players Association are going to get together and say, hey, if you want a third quarterback, okay, give us another man on the field.
That's fine.
I think it's going to be a 47th man.
Okay, fine. But I don't the last rule they had 10 years ago was better than the one now, because we wouldn't have had a situation where there's no quarterback. But I for a fan, it's too confusing of a rule. So just make it an option where the third guy can go in at any time.
Yeah.
He's a third guy active.
Third guy, right.
Yeah. And apparently you have to make it a requirement that it's got to be a quarterback. Otherwise, every team in the league is not going to use it for a quarterback.
No, they won't. They'll go back. They'll put another guy in.
To be for a quarterback. And
put another guy on the roster that they'll use them for special teams, and that'll be it.
Yeah, right. So the NFC Championship game was a little bit of a dud, unfortunate second half where there wasn't a quarterback again for the 49ers. But the AFC Championship was pretty exciting, lived up to the billing. Chiefs pulling off a late win, but somewhat, I don't know if I want to say controversial. I thought it was pretty clearly a foul on the Bengals that put the Chiefs into field goal range that won the game. But not everybody was convinced, Tom.
Well, there were a couple of people who thought, and Dave, I apologize for talking over you a couple of minutes ago. I don't like doing that.
Okay.
As I say, just tell me to shut up. Just say, Tom, shut up. All right. But as far as that goes, I suppose everything's a conspiracy these days. Everybody likes things to be a conspiracy these days. A lot of people were complaining about the kickoff return, that there was an obvious block in the back missed. I've watched that kickoff return a couple of times. I didn't see it. There are people who say that there was a obvious hold missed that allowed Mahomes to get outside the pocket. The penalty itself was easy to call. Mahomes had 2 feet on the whited sideline when he was knocked down. I mean, that is a personal foul.
I saw replays of Joe Burrow getting knocked down at some other point earlier in the game, and people were saying, well, that was just as much of a penalty as Mahomes getting shoved out of bounds. And I didn't think so. I didn't really agree. I thought Burrow actually kind of flopped and fell down on purpose and tried to draw a flag, and I thought the refs rightfully didn't throw a flag in that instance. But it's kind of hard to tell. On the replay that I saw, I thought Burrow flopped.
Right.
And that the Bengal fans or whatever, the conspiracy theorists were grasping at straws.
Yeah, so do I. And that's the problem, is they're always grasping at straws.
And of course, the conspiracy theory is that the NFL wanted this Chiefs-Eagles matchup because it just
Andy Reid.
You have Kelsey versus each other, and then you have Andy Reid against his former team.
Yeah, well, I mean, was it a conspiracy last year when Cincinnati did go to the Super Bowl over the Chiefs? I know they want Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They want Mahomes in the Super Bowl. But last year, the Chiefs lost that game. So, as I say, to rig something like that, a secret can only be kept. It's inversely proportional to the number of people who are in on it. The more people who are in on it, the harder it is to keep that secret. The more likely that secret, that conspiracy is going to come out. So
there was like this narrative this week, right? That the whole thing is scripted, the whole NFL and
there's some who came out with that too. Yes.
Okay. So that's not what you were talking about right then.
No. Well, even then, the discussion about there being a conspiracy is ridiculous. I say you got to have so many people involved in the conspiracy that you're never going to be able to keep it quiet. And so, that's why I'm not a conspiracy guy. But I thought they were legit calls. I thought they were legit no calls. I thought Kansas City clearly won the game. Cincinnati had their chances. Cincinnati did not take advantage of their chances.
Yeah.
It was there for them to win. They didn't. And Mahomes made a couple of big plays. Even with a high ankle sprain, he made a couple of big plays. When he was shoved out of bounds, that was a legit call. That was a legit personal foul call.
Yeah.
And I don't think there was an obvious hold. As I said, I watched the play about 4 or 5 times. I don't think there was an obvious hold on the play. Now, a lot of people want to insist on that, but that's not much you could say. part of this also, I think, has to do with the NFL being so far in bed with the gambling interests, with sports books and with player props. The NFL is completely in bed with gambling now. And I think that leads to conspiracy theories. It leads to more conspiracy theories than we might have had a few years ago. But there's no going back. There's too much money pouring into the NFL from these gambling interests that it's not going to go away. But I think it does create issues that, people will say, well, there are already people who say, well, the referee must have had a bet on the game because, his call affected the spread or something like that. It's out there. So, and I think that leads to more conspiracy theories. Everybody wants a conspiracy theories these days. Sports is not a conspiracy theory.
So did you see Arian Foster on, I think it was Barstool Sports podcast, where he said that that obviously I'm paraphrasing, that he said something along the lines of the NFL is rigged and that everybody gets a script ahead of the ahead of the regular season, and here's what they're going, the record they're going to have, who's going to win, how they're going to do as an individual player, and it was. I didn't see this initially until it was like already viral.
Right.
And you see all the reaction to like, oh my God, Arian Foster is admitting that the NFL is rigged. And then you go and you actually watch the original video and you very clearly can see or hear that the guy's joking. And it's very dry sense of humor. He's being very sarcastic because he's trying to act serious. He's making fun of the people that are saying the NFL is rigged. Yeah. By being serious and saying with a straight face, yeah, I got a script for the season. Found out week 2 I was going to be out the rest of the year with an ACL injury. And people took that for seriousness, and it just started trending that the NFL, oh my God, it's rigged. Their players are admitting it. And I wanted to mention that today because if anybody is still doubting whether or not he was being serious or not, guys, he was joking. It was a joke.
That's another thing. People don't know the difference between joking and sarcasm and reality. And I don't know what happened to society to make that happen, but I didn't see it. But I'm glad you explained it because now I get it. If I had watched it, I would have come to the same conclusion as you did.
I actually watched it the first time and I was kind of like confused. And then I watched it a second time and I was like, he's kidding. He's joking. Come on, guys.
Well, to tell you the truth, if it was on Barstool Sports, then you could tell it probably was not a legit thing anyway.
That's true. Yeah. They don't do a lot of legit reporting or whatever.
No.
But yeah, he was very obviously kidding. And there were some people that piled on the joke, putting memes on Twitter saying, this is the Jets finding out their script for the 2022 season, starting 6-2 or whatever they were, 5-3, and then complete collapse. And it was a funny meme of a guy very frustrated.
Yeah. It is. It's hilarious. And I'm glad a lot of people had fun with it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. But the problem is, as many people as have fun with it, other people will look at those memes and say, see, there you go. That, that just proves what I'm thinking.
That it's right.
Yes.
Right.
So you can't win. So I don't know. It's going to be, you can't win. I haven't seen it. If I go back and look at it, I think I'll come to the same conclusion you did.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you explained it the way you did because now I get it. And Arian Foster's a smart guy. And
he's not a conspiracy theorist. Not that conspiracy theorists aren't smart people, but You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Tony Wright says, I'm looking forward to watching the Senior Bowl today. I think the Falcons should trade down from 8th to 22nd or 23rd. What do you think of that, Tom? The idea of the Falcons trading back quite a bit in the first round.
I don't like it. You need a pass rusher. You need somebody who can team up with Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett works all alone on that defensive line. And you've seen what Hargreaves does for the Eagles for their defensive ends, how much space he occupies and how fast he is and how difficult he is to block. And it makes his defensive ends better. You saw what happened with Aaron Donald. Why Aaron Donald's so hard to block makes his defensive ends better. No, it's not Grady Jarrett's fault that he's not making his defensive ends better. It's the fact that the Falcons have had really sucky defensive ends. Okay? You need a pass rusher.
What if you get an extra first-round pick out of it? Tony's proposed trade here is first-round pick for the number 8 pick this year.
Nope.
And you still get a first-round pick this year. It's just going to be 22, 23.
No. Don't like it.
I don't know if you're going to get that, Tony. Do you think a team would give up a first-round pick to move up from 22 to 8? You're not getting like the 3rd pick. You're getting the 8th pick.
Well, again,
premier quarterbacks.
Most teams move up because they want the quarterback. Because they feel they can get,
But if you're moving up to 8, you're not moving up to get a quarterback.
No, you're not. They're going to be gone. This isn't like, 3 years, or was it 2-3 years ago, when we had the 5 quarterbacks that were looking to come out. And it was all a matter of where the 5 quarterbacks were dropping. That's how the Patriots got a quarterback being farther back in the draft, how the Bears got a quarterback. Bears had to move up to get theirs.
Right.
But they didn't move up into the single digits.
What number did Justin Fields go?
I think he went 12th.
12.
So, this isn't that kind of time. You got 2 quarterbacks that everybody expects to be NFL caliber. If you don't have enough quarterbacks to make it down to your later in the first round, 7, 8, or 9, you're not going to trade back. You can only trade back for a position where a team is going after a quarterback. Otherwise, they're not going to bother. Take advantage of this pick. Get your pass rush. Get it now. You can get good offensive linemen in the 2nd, 3rd rounds. Get your pass rusher. All right, the problem is last year, the Falcons didn't get their pass rusher. They went for a wide receiver.
Yeah. Well, they were planning on, that 2nd round pick being the pass rusher.
And he didn't come out and be.
Yeah.
Now, Ekibite may still be a good pass rusher. We don't know. It was only his rookie season. Maybe he comes out next year and does better. But I want to see a pass rusher who's going to make an impact.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
Well,
I'm tired of looking at prospects on the defensive line.
Yeah. Tony, it sounds like you're really into the Senior Bowl more than us. What pass rushers are going in the top 10? What guys? Because we haven't dived into studying this draft class yet.
Not yet. I will, but not yet.
Give us a little early study of like what guys. If we want the Falcons to take pass rusher, so what guys? If the Falcons are interested in the pass rusher 8, who should be on their radar? I guess is my question to you. Love to hear that from you. And we have a question from Todd. Again, everybody, thanks so much for all the comments and questions. Todd asks, is Ridder really the answer?
We don't know yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Falcons bring in some competition for Ridder. Finding a quarterback to bring in free agency is not an easy thing, like we saw last year with Marcus Mariota. Probably one of the better ones that's going to be available this year is Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield. Do you want either of them facing off against Ridder in training camp? That's because you're not going to get one in the draft. You're going to get one you can develop maybe in the draft. I mean, look at Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm a fan of taking quarterbacks every year, but taking them late unless you got a chance at a franchise guy.
And when you say late, like 5th, 6th round.
Yeah, 5th, 6th, 7th round.
Yeah.
Because the third day of the draft is where you're making you're kind of making gambles on players at that point anyway. If this guy hits, that's great. If he doesn't, well, we gave it a try. The second day of the draft, you're looking to hit. You need starters. But as I say, you don't have to draft an offensive lineman. The only way I would draft an offensive lineman from 1st to 10th is if you know he's got the goods to be a Pro Bowl lineman, and it would be a left tackle. You gotta know he has the goods to be the guy you need to watch your quarterback's blind side. So again, pass rusher, you are not going to get in free agency. I know the Falcons have a lot of space in free agency this year as far as cap room. You're not going to find that make a difference pass rusher in free agency. You've got to draft him, and you've got to draft him at 8. And that I will not move from that position from now until the draft.
But back to the question about Desmond Ridder, you're going to give him an incomplete.
I'm going to give him an incomplete. I really don't know yet. It's hard to say because, again, the Falcons were so bad at receiver last year because of the injuries, because Kyle Pitts being out. I think they need to strengthen their receiver position, not in the first round.
Well,
receiver you can strengthen in free agency.
I was just going to say that. You have the salary cap space now.
Right.
You can find receivers in free agency to help you out in the short term to have guys that Ridder or whoever's quarterback can throw to.
Right.
And, it's going to be an interesting quarterback free agency period. And I
think it will.
I haven't decided yet what I would want the Falcons to do, to be honest. I do want to see Ridder more. I think I don't want to go back down this rabbit hole, but what I said in August, my fear of what would happen with Ridder in his rookie season basically happened, where he only played the final 4 games, and we're left to be like, well, did we see enough to give him more starts, or do we just move on and toss him in the trash can, or do we add somebody to compete with him, or is he the guy? We don't know because he only played 4 games. He didn't. I guess if he had come on and played like Brock Purdy, we would know. But in all likelihood, there was never going to be a scenario where after 4 games we would know. So having him play only 4 games, especially in the middle of the season when it looked like to us Mariota wasn't the solution, Ridder should have been playing sooner so we could find out more about him. But again, I don't want to keep going down that argument all the time. We've made that a point several times previously.
I think that was a failure of Arthur Smith. Yeah.
But I think if you can add a Derek Carr, if you can add a Baker Mayfield and they're not going to be, I don't think, heavily sought after because maybe Aaron Rodgers is available.
Aaron Rodgers is too old.
I'm not saying for the Falcons.
Okay.
I'm saying the Falcons can target a Baker Mayfield or Derek Carr because these other bigger name quarterbacks could be available. And then the Falcons should go after the bargain bin quarterbacks to pair him with Desmond Ridder and have them compete. It's basically what I'm saying. If you sign Derek Carr, you're going with Derek Carr. I don't think he's going to compete with Ridder. But
no, he's not.
Carr is also not like the long-term solution. Carr would be a 2-3 year stopgap until you get into a position where you can find a different young quarterback other than Ridder.
Well, the thing is, I haven't looked closely at the free agent list yet. So there are probably guys out there. I was just using them as
No, I think those are great examples. Derek Carr's not technically a free agent yet, though. Neither is Aaron Rodgers. Geno Smith's another guy. Could be a free agent, but it came out yesterday that contract negotiations are going pretty well with him in Seattle, so maybe he stays put. Lamar Jackson could be a free agent. They've come out, the Ravens have come out and said, no, absolutely not. I think the word that John Harbaugh said was 200% chance that Lamar Jackson's back with the Ravens. That's a really high percentage.
That's a high percentage. Impossible percentage, but
we'll see. Their end of their season didn't go so well on a lot of different levels. That Jackson wasn't available for them. Do the Ravens want to give him all that guaranteed money when he hasn't finished a season in a couple years? And does Jackson want to be back? I think that's a question as well. So there could be a lot of big name quarterbacks available, and that would help the Falcons because they could get one of the second tier or third tier guys to again pair with Ridder.
But I think you have to have competition for Ridder going into camp. I want to see Ridder against another quarterback and win that job. And then I might have a better opinion of him. But yeah, we just didn't have enough room to really get a look at him. I think he had his moments. But every quarterback has a moment where you think, my God, this guy might be it. And I do want to just say real quick, we saw you, Mad Mike, and I'm glad to have you on today. So it's always great to have you on, here for the show. So believe me, very, very happy for that. And I'm happy for everybody who gets involved in the show. We got a great audience.
I want to get to some more of those comments. Brian agrees with you, and I've agreed with you as well, Tom, that pass rushers got to be the pick at number 8.
Well, see, what gets me is a team that has a good one is not going to let them get away in free agency. They will sign him. That's why you're not going to find that pass rusher in free agency.
Yes.
So that's.
Todd says he thinks the main problem with the Falcons also is the sacks, not getting enough of a pass rush. He thinks the new defensive coordinator, though, is gonna change that. I think that's great optimism to have, but he's got to have the pieces to do it. And who's going to be the top pass rusher on the team to help out Grady Jarrett? That's the question that, again, the Falcons face this offseason. Our suggestion of Derek Carr not going over well in our comments section.
And I wasn't saying that they need to bring in Derek Carr. So don't worry about that. I'm saying Ridder, he's one of the people who are going to be available that, you might want to kick the tires on. I'm not particularly a fan of Derek Carr either. So, but my point is you got to bring in some competition at some point for Ridder, whoever it is. Because I think Ridder needs to win this job this next spring and summer. And then we might see more of what we expect out of Desmond Ridder. So that's where I'm going.
Wallace says you're going to have to trade for Carr. I don't think so. I think eventually the Raiders are just going to release him. Because teams know that he's not going back to Las Vegas.
Right.
That is done. He's done with the Raiders. And why would you trade for a guy that's on his way out?
Right.
He's going to get released, and you pick him up in free agency. Tony does not like the idea of bringing in Baker Mayfield. So I think that's interesting as well. Because, guys, I mean, we'll see who else is a free agent quarterback.
Right.
One of these guys might really realistically end up in Atlanta. Unless, I guess, the team just decides Ridder is the guy. But can we honestly say that he doesn't deserve even competition? We don't. We think that would be a mistake.
Yeah.
Brian says the Ravens are going to tag Lamar. More than likely, yes.
Brian, I would agree with you there. So I think you got it. I think the Ravens are going to do that.
Brian says he thinks Carr is going to end up in Tampa. He's also predicting Garoppolo to end up in Las Vegas. That's another name we haven't mentioned yet.
We have, right?
Jimmy Garoppolo, 49ers, Kyle Shanahan said he saw no scenario where Garoppolo would be back in San Francisco.
Shanahan does not like Garoppolo. They just do not get along. He does not like Garoppolo. And I don't know why. I think he's a competent quarterback.
Yeah.
But man, Shanahan really dislikes Garoppolo.
I think Tony might have the winner. Jacoby Brissett. That's he has Brissett here in this previous comment. Yeah. He's going to be a free agent, not going back to Cleveland. Cleveland has their guy in Deshaun Watson. So that could be an interesting option because he's another guy kind of like Mariota. I think he's better than Mariota, though. A guy that could come in and start. We could also just come in and back up and mentor Desmond Ridder.
Right.
So that might be like the best case scenario for quarterback.
Well, I think Brissett's a lot better as far as a leader on that offense. So, yeah, I would like to see Jacoby Brissett. If the Falcons are going to go for somebody to provide competition for Ridder, I think he is a definite possibility. And
I'm laughing at Mad Mike's comment about Kyle Shanahan. Nobody likes Kyle Shanahan, or he doesn't like anybody, is what Mad Mike's saying. Wallace said that, 40 because of the $40 million contract, the Raiders are going to try and trade Carr first. I think that they will try and trade him, but I don't think they're going to have any success with that.
No, I don't think anybody. No, but they're going to wait for Carr to be released. They want Carr. They want the Raiders to be picking up a large portion of Carr's contract for next year, and the only way to do that is wait for him to be released, and you can make a better deal for him that fits under your salary cap.
Jamal D, who I don't know if we've ever had him as a commenter.
We've had him before. It's good to see him.
Commenter. Thanks for joining us. He likes the idea of Taylor Heineke, and I kind of like that idea as well.
I wouldn't argue with that. If he's available, if he's out there. As I say, once I start looking at the free agent lists, I would not argue with Taylor Heineke at all. So that's a good choice.
And Gary says the Falcons could go after Brady. Not.
I think Brady is finally done. He's finally admitted he's done.
Do you think this retirement will stick for Brady?
Yes. I think it is. I think it will. Because he had nothing last year. And I think he realizes that the league has caught up with him. That time has caught up with him. Time catches up with all of us. So I think he finally realizes that.
We don't have much time left in the show. Thanks, everybody, for sending in your comments and questions. I do want to make one point about the Pro Bowl weekend. I'll probably have the flag football game on at some point tomorrow just to kind of see how it works out. But my big issue with the Pro Bowl this year, and maybe this is probably the case or has been the case for a while, is it's just been so watered down, not just from a football product perspective, but who's actually being honored with the Pro Bowl mantra. The Pro Bowl, this is a Pro Bowler. It used to be a pretty big deal to say, well, I'm a Pro Bowler, or this player has made this many Pro Bowls.
Right.
Well, that just gets so trampled on when you send a quarterback to the Pro Bowl like Tyler Huntley.
Yes,
Tyler Huntley started 3-4 games. I think it was 3 games for the Ravens this year. I mean, he didn't play, let alone play well. How did that guy end up making the Pro Bowl? It's just a joke. And like, as a Steeler fan, it's like, why? I know Kenny Pickett isn't a Pro Bowler either, but how did Kenny Pickett not get in over Tyler Huntley? And maybe
I would agree with you.
As a Steeler fan, maybe I'm happy that Pickett didn't make it, so people aren't making fun of him for being a Pro Bowler. We can make fun of the Ravens quarterback for being the
like a couple of years ago when Mitch Trubisky was a Pro Bowler.
And that's
everybody had fun with Mitch Trubisky being a Pro Bowler.
But it's gotten so bad that we have a backup. He was a backup all year in the Pro Bowl. And like Derek Carr's in the Pro Bowl this year too. The guy got benched. The guy lost his job.
Right.
The team doesn't want him back.
No.
And he's being honored as an all-star.
Right.
In his sport at his position. I get it that players opted out, and I guess these are the best available left. But I go on Pro Bowl Reference this week, and I'm looking at the Ravens roster, and there's a little star next to Tyler Huntley because he made the Pro Bowl this year. You go onto his page and it's one-time Pro Bowler. He has 3 starts in his career, but one-time Pro Bowler.
One-time Pro Bowler. Yeah.
So it's just if the NFL wants us to take this seriously, whether it's a flag football game or not, the honor of being a Pro Bowler has to be something that's important, something that actually holds water. And it's not when you're honoring the backup quarterback from the Baltimore Ravens.
No, because he was awful. Right. I agree with you. He was awful. And I know people, Brian, yeah, you got it. I mean, I'd rather see Matt Ryan as a Pro Bowler. At least he played most of the season. Wasn't very good.
Oh, he was pretty bad.
But he was a lot better than Tyler Huntley.
I'm kind of looking forward to the dodgeball. Did they do the dodgeball yet? You clearly, I'm like tuned into the Pro Bowl schedule.
I don't think so. I don't think so. They just basically they've kind of focused on the Manning brothers as far as promoting this thing. You know, being coaches on either side of the field, and it's almost like a Manning production, where we're going to see which Manning is better at leading teams than which team is better, which Manning is better at making decisions and winning this game, you know, these events.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Those two guys are very entertaining, and that's what the NFL wants to be.
That's what the NFL wants.
They want to be entertaining, so they've hired the right 2 guys to make it entertaining.
Yes, they did.
I'm not opposed to just getting rid of everything for this week and just having the voting just count for an all-star nomination. Like we can still have the Pro Bowl title that players can say, I made the Pro Bowl, without having the Pro Bowl. Of course, the NFL wants it to be some money-making thing, and that's why we're going to have a flag football game on TV.
Yes.
But we can have the Pro Bowl titles without the festivities. But for the title to mean anything, you can't have Tyler Huntley in it.
No, I know. But, you know, the thing is, the NFL, they can't go 2 weeks between the regular season and the Super Bowl without having something.
Why not? Or if you think we're not going to tune in for the Super Bowl because it's 2 weeks, like we're going to forget about football, we're going to forget the Super Bowl is happening because there's no Pro Bowl.
No, but they had to have something to promote this week for Sunday. And then, you know, then you go into full Super Bowl mode. It as I told you, Dave, it comes down to money.
It does. You're right. You're absolutely right. And I'm not a huge, I want to see how it works out. I'm not like a huge, I don't think the flag football idea is awful, I guess is what I'll say. I want to see how it works out. But I want the players that deserve to be there to be there.
Right.
Not players that don't deserve to be there to be there.
I would agree with you.
It's flag football. So if Wallace made the point no other AFC quarterbacks wanted to be there, then put Cameron Hayward at quarterback, and that'll be entertaining. You know, like it doesn't have to be if there's no worthy AFC quarterbacks, then put somebody else at quarterback that doesn't normally play quarterback.
I agree.
It was a Pro Bowler at his position.
Yeah, I agree. Why not?
Wallace says the dodgeball was last night. Thank you, Wallace, for updating us on the Pro Bowl.
Wow.
Activity schedule.
Who won?
They
played dodgeball?
Yeah, you didn't hear they were playing dodgeball this year?
I thought they were joking about playing dodgeball.
No, that was a real thing. And Derek Carr, you know, we can rip him, but he won the quarterback accuracy drill.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was going up against Tyler Huntley, but he did win.
Right. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, you got to have something to fill that week between the championship game and the Super Bowl. The NFL, it seems like they have insisted that they want a 2-week period between the championship games and the Super Bowl. They will not do the Super Bowl the week after the championship games. They did experiment with that, but apparently they do not like it. And this is what they want to do. This is where they feel the money is. And yeah,
I can see pros and cons to the 1 week and the extra bye. It's kind of good. It gives a little bit of an opportunity for players to rest. We're more likely to see all the stars healthy for the Super Bowl because of the extra time. I don't think it's bad to have 2 weeks of hype for the game instead of just one. I think that's and if you're traveling to the game, I've never traveled to the Super Bowl, but I'd imagine like if you're thinking about going and your team's in championship Sunday, but you're waiting to see if they win, it probably is easier to make travel arrangements if you have that extra week, right? Supposed to it's 6 days away if you're booking it on Monday.
True. Yeah. And I think that's it. They're just giving a lot of time and a lot of very festive. And, this is our highlight. This is everything we play for throughout the year. And they want to give it 2 weeks. So I'm not disappointed in that. But it's just funny that they decided they moved the Pro Bowl from after the Super Bowl to before the Super Bowl.
True.
Because again, to try and generate more interest in it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm not sure that worked. I guess is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Maybe it did a little because people are the idea is people are still in football mood, and after the Super Bowl they're really not. So it is something to watch in between, but not when Tyler Huntley's in the event.
Not when Tyler Huntley's there.
We're over time. We got to wrap this up. Thanks, everybody, for commenting. We'll be back next Saturday to preview the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's great to have everybody who is here commenting and everybody who's on the stream. We appreciate having you spend your day, part of your Saturday with us, and just have a great week. Talk Super Bowl next week.